Welcome everyone, and good afternoon. I guess it's 12:02, and I appreciate everyone dialing in. I was asked to maybe help out with one of our lecture series here that we have, and I really enjoy talking about memory and sleep because that's such an important part of our day-to-day life. And I always was fascinated for that for many decades. But then, as it turns out, over the last 5 to 10 years, a lot of science has actually popped up, showing that there is really also a specific physiological mechanism that shows that poor sleep actually doesn't help aging and also can contribute to various medical disorders, including also potentially cognitive decline and dementia. And those are the things that I'd like to talk about today. Let's see. So I will talk a bit about what sleep is and why do we sleep and how sleep changes over time and what's abnormal sleep. And then I have a bunch of smaller or bigger recommendations how we can stay healthy and how we can also try to focus on having a good night's sleep. And that really will go a long way. As everyone probably has experienced themselves. Now, as you know, we really don't know for sure what exactly sleep is. It's still a big mystery. We all do it, right? A third of our lifetime we're actually sleeping, and we can see it and observe it and we can experience it. But it is a very complex biological process where many different systems in our body start suddenly changing around the time when we fall asleep. And this happened for 6, 7, 8 hours at night, and then suddenly these systems change back to wakefulness. And it seems that in these biological processes that we are processing potentially new information, re-energize, heal, and change metabolism in our body during sleep. And apparently for most of us or species, these periods of sleep are important. Otherwise, we couldn't actually live. So if someone would be sleep deprived and there are conditions where people cannot sleep at all anymore, this would be really not compatible with life. So sleep is really a life-saving activity that we do pretty much automatically every night. So the idea, of course, is that, well, in sleep, you're resting and recharging. But then if it turns out, if you record, for example, brain waves, meaning like adding like little stickers to the surface of your skull and record the electrical activity of the brain, you'll find out that actually your brain is fairly active in the middle of the night while you sleep. And sometimes even during dream sleep, the brain actually spends more energy than what you actually would do during the day when you're awake. So, and we go through these sleep cycles every night where we go from light sleep to deeper sleep, and then later also to dream sleep. And the dream sleep in the 50s, 1950, was described first time as something where you have excuse me, rapid eye movement sleep. So suddenly your eyes start moving a lot. And in this rapid eye movement sleep, when you wake someone up, you'll find out actually that they're dreaming. So that's why we also call it dream sleep. And from the practical purpose, we divide the sleep up into the non-dream sleep, non-REM sleep, and these dream sleep, what REM sleep is called. Contrary to most belief is that having a lot of dream sleep is not necessarily the only thing necessary to have a fully restorative night sleep. It's helpful, but as you will see soon, deeper sleep stages are also very important to help us to be rested in the morning. Now, as we all know, human sleep, but then it turns out many, if not all other species on Earth sleep as well. And we all go through a somewhat 24-hour sleep-wake cycle. So, and this 24-hour sleep-wake cycle is extremely important to make us function every day. So, and this is really somewhat on an autopilot, and there are internal clock genes, like little proteins, that really give us the time of the day, really, and gives us the need to stay awake or to be asleep. But external stimuli, for example, the sun goes up, the sun goes down, it's dinner time, it's breakfast time, all of those signals also will help to stay in this 24-hour sleep-wake cycle. If you don't follow these external stimuli well, then your 24-hour sleep-wake cycle can actually be quite a bit of mixed up. And we can talk about that later when we talk about good sleep hygiene, because as we get older, especially when we talk about patients with cognitive problems, this 24-hour sleep cycle is quite a thing that you cannot keep up anymore so easily, and you have to have really a conscious effort to follow that cycle. Why we now exactly sleep, we don't know. There's always the prey and predator theory behind all of this. So, for example, when you look in nature, certain animals like the gazelle or giraffe, they sleep only 2 or 3 hours in 24 hours, versus a lion or so can sleep up to 20 hours. Or if you have a dog, you know that the dog can sleep like a lot, and those is probably related to the fact that the prey has to be much more alert and be careful about their surroundings. And in general, of course, like I said, conserving energy is one of those features that the brain focuses on. One other part of the circadian rhythm that you might have heard about is melatonin. So there is an internal sleep hormone in a way that gets secreted when it's getting dark. And so getting dark, it means that the body suddenly gets a signal that the melatonin gets secreted into your body, and that's one of the big triggers to also fall asleep. And then during the daytime, the melatonin production is really reduced. And so, as we all know, melatonin is something people buy over the counter, and melatonin has also something really important. It has an important impact on this 24-hour sleep-wake rhythm. Now, when you look at us as we get older, there's a lot of different aspects that has been discussed why we might be sleeping, and there's some science behind that. One about that is learning and memory consolidation. So apparently sleep helps with focusing on concentration, and really allows the brain to register and organize memories, all of which is really necessary to learn. So if you don't sleep well, then you are unable really to consolidate memory or remember or study well. And what that means is that they have done studies where people were interrupted in their sleep, and the next day they were asked what they learned the day before, and folks who were sleep deprived had a really hard time with learning and memory. And we see it also in our seniors, especially with cognitive problems. If you struggle with your memory and you don't sleep well through the night, then you know that the next day for sure. And the same is not just with learning, but also with emotional regulation. So apparently sleep is really needed for us to also process stress and emotions that happen during the day and that go on in your mind. And again, you don't sleep well, these stressors really continue to affect you more and more. And I think we all know what it means when we're sleep deprived and then get rushed into certain decisions, or when we are forced to make quick decisions and we're tired. And so sleep is really necessary, really, to help our judgment and decision making. Not only that, I think problem solving is and growth and healing are part of the factors that get influenced by sleep, and also negatively affected if you don't sleep enough. And it has been also shown that certain immune markers, for example, are affected by people who don't sleep well. For example, certain patients that, for example, don't get enough oxygen at night in sleep apnea will have a higher risk of certain infection or have a difficulties fighting off disease. And so your immune system is definitely also affected by your sleep. Now, I thought about like presenting a long list of medical conditions that can affect older adults. And I don't want to be overwhelming for everyone, and definitely feel free to put some questions in the chat about specific condition and specific questions about sleep. Otherwise, it becomes a very long lecture about things that you might not be interested in. But in general, we know that up to 40 to 7% of older adults have chronic sleep issues. And more than half of those actually are undiagnosed. And these chronic sleep problems can significantly interfere with your daily activities, as I showed in the earlier slide. And this affects the quality of life. So meaning you sleep better and your quality of life is better. Now, that's easier said than done. So, for example, pain is a quite common interference with sleep. And as we get older, arthritis, joint pain, knee pains, all kind of things can affect you. And then, of course, that will interfere with your sleep. So you can have the best intentions of sleeping well and being healthy, but you get woken up all night long from pain. Well, that's not really good because, as I showed, you need to sleep. Now, we also know that when you don't sleep well, your pain is worse. So then we end into this vicious cycle of you have pain, you get sleepless, and then you're tired, and then your pain next day is even worse. So here are an important factor on controlling pain and improving your sleep. So when one has a sleep issue, for example, at night, the reflex is not necessarily to prescribe a sleep aid and just knock someone out so that they're out. Actually, is to analyze why you don't sleep well, and is there a smarter way around that? I have noticed that, for example, a sleep aid might be prescribed in someone with nocturnal pain or pain in general, and that sleep aid might help you sleep, but the pain still interrupts your sleep, and you can actually record brain waves and can tell that people keep constantly waking up despite that they are actually technically sleeping from the sleep aid. So pain control it's a big deal in sleep, and we all know that, of course, pain control is not easy because certain painkillers can also affect your day-to-day function because they are very sedating. And so this is a long topic, and it's something that you definitely need to talk with your doctor about, and getting pain controlled so you sleep better. Now, the nighttime urination is also something that interferes with many folks' sleep, and almost 80% of older adults have to get up at least once at night to go to the bathroom, and that, of course, causes also sleep disruption. And life happens, and this is how it is. As long as one can fall asleep again and is able to get their 6 to 8 hours of sleep in at night, but you have to go to the bathroom once or twice, it's probably not the end of the world. But if it gets more and more, like every hour, then definitely this causes sleep fragmentation. So there are simple things like taking a water pill in the morning and not a diuretic at night that causes you to go to the bathroom frequently, or talking to the urologist about other solutions that you don't have to get up so frequently at night. The nighttime urination, since we talk about memory and cognition as well, is an issue because people go in the middle of the night sleepy to the bathroom, and then I have a significant fall risk because you're tired and you're wobbly on your legs and you got to go every hour to the bathroom. So this is a big issue. Again, if I prescribe a sleep aid for nighttime urination, well, I would actually make things worse because you still have to go to the bathroom. And then on top of that, while you are on your way to the bathroom, you might fall from the sleeping aid. So again, the answer might not be a sleep aid directly, but rather a smart way of hopefully improving nighttime urination. Um, so the other big topic that affects not only older adults, but technically anyone, and this is very tightly related to the circadian rhythm that I earlier mentioned, is insomnia. So many patients have a hard time falling asleep and staying asleep. And that is a very big topic that interferes with your nighttime activity and restfulness. And then in return, you're of course then drowsy the following day because you didn't sleep at night at all. And this becomes a chronic cycle where people go to bed and they know, oh my God, it's 11 p.m. I'm not going to fall asleep. I have insomnia. And then people are up till 4 a.m. and then they get sleepy and sleep till noon or longer, or nap many times during the day. And these are very common scenarios we see in clinic where people really are not functioning at all during the day because they're dead tired, but then at night they don't sleep at all. This is really something that really goes to a sleep specialist, where we have to find out why people don't fall asleep and what we can do about it. Maybe there is a medication that has to be looked at. Maybe there is some behavioral training where we can change some of the bedtime routine that gets you better to sleep. For example, napping is your big enemy. Because the more you nap during the day, the less you sleep at night. And we can talk. I have another slide about napping later. So that's a very individual situation if napping helps you or doesn't help you. Most people that nap during the day don't sleep well at night because you only have, let's say, 6 to 8 hours of sleep in 24 hours. And if you nap for 2 hours during the day, well, then you just have only 6 hours left at night to sleep. So it's really almost like a sleep bank account in 24 hours. The other conditions you see listed here, sleep apnea, restless legs, and REM sleep behavior disorder, are true sleep disorders that are affecting patients and are not necessarily caused by anything you can do during the day or any behaviors or any sleep routines. These are conditions that just come on. And if you suffer from one or one of those, it can interfere with your nighttime sleep so much that you don't function well during the day. For example, sleep apnea is where folks have loud snoring, and during the snoring part, your airways in your throat is vibrating so much that it almost collapses and the tongue falls backward, and then you really stop breathing, and that's what this apnea means. Once you stop breathing, then you don't get enough oxygen, and that really is not good for your brain, and your brain will say, oh, what's happening? And you wake up to take a deep breath. And this can go on and on and on every night, all night long. And people have these apnea events 5, 10, 20, 50 times an hour. And imagine you wake up 50 times an hour from not getting enough oxygen. That does not really help you be rested. It interferes with heart and lung health and, of course, memory. And it's something that I get somewhat excited about because it's something we can easily fix. So there are CPAP machines that people can wear and other solutions now where you can try to eliminate as much as possible from the sleep apnea, and people make a big turnaround. So suddenly thinking is better, the daytime sleepiness is better, headaches in the morning are better, your blood pressure is better controlled. So getting rid of sleep apnea is a big winner in getting your sleep health better in check. Restless legs is a condition that happens very frequently in families. Up to 70% of people have a family member with this concern that they move their legs too much at night, or when you try to go to bed. Maybe one of you have that same experience that you go to bed, your legs feel uncomfortable, you need to move them around to make them feel a little better, but then once you stop moving them, this uncomfortable sensation, the urge to move your legs comes back. And it could be just a few moments when you go to bed, and then, then that's what that is, and there's nothing big to worry about. But it becomes sometimes a real problem where these restless leg symptoms start already when you watch TV or when you sit at the dinner table, and then it's so bad that you cannot lie down anymore because it's just so significant. Those folks also have significant difficulties with falling asleep and staying asleep, and it has to be addressed by a neurologist or sleep neurologist to figure out how to eliminate these restless leg symptoms to help you fall asleep easier. Many patients just take this as a fact. I had so many patients, they think that just what is normal, that you have to move your legs, and they're really surprised that I'm telling them, hey, no, that's not normal. You should just go to bed without wiggling your legs. And they're actually very grateful once these restless leg symptoms go away and they can fall asleep without the discomfort. They are actually one of the few patients that really hug me spontaneously sometimes in the office are restless legs patients because they sleep better. And then REM sleep behavior disorder, I'm sure there are some questions at the end of the talk as well, is something that pops up now more and more in as people get older. And what that really means is that you start acting out your dreams. So we all dream, and dreams are good. And in your dreams, you're sleeping. Your body has a switch kind of in your brain that turns off your muscle movement. So you're kind of paralyzed. But in your dreams, you run around and you do things and are pretty active. And now in this REM sleep behavior disorder, that switch doesn't work. And suddenly you're dreaming, you're sleeping, but suddenly you start moving. And it can be entertaining for the bed partner. Most of the time it becomes pretty frightening and at times even dangerous because the person that is sleeping is fighting off a lion and suddenly starts kicking and hitting with the fist around, and you can get hit. And bed partners I've seen have bruises on their arms or their legs because the bed partner is so active at night. This REM sleep behavior disorder gets diagnosed in a sleep study, and there are medications to calm things down if need be. So that's just a short list of things that come to mind when we think about common sleep issues in older adults. Now, I want to shift gear for a few moments and talk a little bit more about the science of sleep and dementia. So as I mentioned earlier, there are lots of studies that have shown that people that don't sleep well during their life, during midlife, like in their 50s, 40s, and 50s, have later in life a higher risk of memory issues, for example, Alzheimer's disease. And it was for a long time, well, it's this, but it's for a long time, it was always a big mystery what the relationship between both of them is. But now it turns out that the worse we sleep in our lifetime, the more you have buildup of toxic proteins in the brain, for example, amyloid, beta, and tau. And these proteins we all produced all the time, and our brain is usually able to clear out the toxins out of the brain, but then as one doesn't sleep well, you don't clear out these toxins anymore so easily. And I have a slide here that's from the journal Science, and don't get too scared by the picture itself, but it looks pretty complex. But what it really shows is that our blood travels through the brain, of course, through little tubes called arteries, and that's how for example, fresh new nutrients come into the brain. And then there is something called the glymphatic system that really it's a fluid that flushes out all the little black particles, what are these toxins all the time. And then this glymphatic system can constantly filter out these toxins. Now, turns out if you have less of this fluid traveling through, like it is depicted here on the other side, you still have some, but these toxins suddenly start piling up. And turns out that these toxins then can make, for example, in Alzheimer, the amyloid plaques. And so these plugs are tightly related, at least in for some scientists, by the fact that these toxins are not really cleared out anymore properly as we get older. And then the really interesting part is this that this clearing system, this fluid that constantly clears out toxins out of our brain, is related to how deep you sleep. So, for example, a young adult, like a teenager, has a bunch of deep sleep stages and a little bit dream sleep, but mostly deep sleep stages, and they get a lot of these toxins cleared out with the deep sleep. And that's what it's supposed to be. Well, as you get older, or let's say you wake up 50 times from sleep apnea every night, well, you don't get into deep sleep. So that means you don't clear out as much of this toxins anymore out of the brain. And the clearance really in light sleep and during dream sleep is not as good as it is actually in deep sleep. So the point here is that the worse you sleep, the less of these toxins you clear out. And there is a relationship how that then so many decades later built into this memory disorders. So, and they have found that if folks have less clearance, for example, you can see that they, for example, have a poor sleep quality. Some of them have heart disease, some are not as active. Substance abuse can make the lymphatic system not really clear out well. Sleep apnea, as I mentioned, cuts your sleep in little pieces and can interfere with that. Obesity, depression can make the system not work well. And then the circadian problems, like when you don't sleep in regular terms every 24 hours properly, all of that can cause this system not to clear out toxins. And then you build up these aggregates. And then at some point, somewhere, these piles of, well, technically protein trash at some point will just start attacking your brain and you might develop a cognitive disorder. Well, let's move forward to like a little bit more cheerful topic, because this sounds all very scary, and we all sleep, and I know that there is only so much we can do about our lifetime sleep, but there are some interesting aspects of day-to-day intervention that can help us to get a good night's sleep. And the first and foremost is to follow a regular sleep schedule. And I noticed that especially with folks that get that are retired or get older, there is not as much going on. There is less responsibility. Some tend to just let their sleep schedule go. And that means during times when they were working or they had kids or they were more active, they would get up in the morning at 7, do their day's work, and then in the evening by 10 you go to bed. But if you don't follow this routine anymore, you actually then fall out of sync with your circadian rhythm, and all of these problems that I mentioned earlier can start because you just don't have a good routine anymore. And we see that also in teenagers that make a real push themselves too long and stay up too long. And of course, now with these COVID stories and working from home, and people have a flexible work schedule, all of those things, although flexible work schedule is great, is not ideal for the sleep schedule, because you got to be very disciplined to really go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time in the morning. And if you do that, you do yourself a great favor of in the long run, sleeping better. Now, napping, and I mentioned earlier that I come back to this slide, is usually bad. So most patients I talk to in the sleep clinic or in our memory clinic have a hard time sleeping through the night. They wake up, they get confused in the evening, they wake up early in the morning, they go to bed late or just cannot fall asleep. And then because of this whole commotion at night, people are like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Well, you should sleep a little. And then they nap during the day. And by doing that, you get into this habit of having this sleep schedule that is really mixed up. You just don't sleep anymore at night and you catch up during the day. And for those folks, napping is not good. So we try to, I recommend to avoid napping in the afternoon if possible, to really push all the sleepiness into the evening. So you fall asleep in the evening because that's when it's supposed to happen, right? Now, I am aware that people have medical conditions, for example, where you get exhausted, right? Someone has Parkinson's, someone is recovering from a stroke, and it's tough to be you, right? So you really get exhausted, and then in the afternoon, you take a quick nap and recharge your batteries. Technically, this is okay as long as you can sleep during at night. So I think power naps are okay, but only if they are used smartly. So that means 20 minutes, and then you get up. And if you're able to sleep well at night, well, that power nap really gives you some energy back that you really need. But if you have nighttime sleep problems, don't catch up during the day if you can. Um, um, then the other question, of course, is like the bedtime routine. So everybody is busy and everybody has like certain things that go on in their life, and that really can interfere with your sleep schedule, and then you get really out of sync on what to do. And the brain is really a habit thing. So the brain really needs this constant safe and predictable pattern in order to sleep well. So, and I don't have a magic answer for everyone because, of course, thank God, everyone is different. But it should be helpful that you make bedtime a priority. So many people want to do so much in the evening because they have so much time then to do stuff, and they don't make that sleep time a priority, and then really you cannot unwind. So set your time where you say, like at 9 o'clock, I grab a book, I turn off the electronic devices. I know it's my nighttime routine, and at 10 I'll go to bed, and you follow that routine as good as you can, and your body will be grateful if you do that. If you put other priorities first, then you might not be able to follow this nighttime routine well. Now, I mentioned just like turn off your phone. Well, that's kind of a new thing for all of us, right? We are all like in bed, potentially watching TV or having our phones in order to fall asleep, and it's not ideal. And anyone that has teenagers knows how that goes. Turning off the electronic device at bedtime is almost mandatory in order to help you fall asleep and stay asleep. It's not only that this high-speed information that you see, this quick videos or information overload that you see is really distracting your brain and doesn't really let you settle down. But it also, the bright light of these devices can make you not fall asleep easily. Luckily, there's a night mode now in some of the phones where where the blue light gets really filtered out. So that's nice, but that's great. But again, if you can turn off the electronic devices at bedtime, would be great in order to get you going with your sleep routine. Anyone that has a partner knows the battle between what should be the room temperature. It should be comfortable, right? Doesn't have to be too cold or too hot, but it becomes like sometimes a little fist fight between partners if you want to have the window open or you turn on the heat. You have to figure that out yourself, but the bedroom should have a comfortable temperature. Usually it's slightly colder to help you fall asleep, and it shouldn't be too hot. But I'm not aware of clear rules how much the temperature setting should be, but you just figure it out with your partner what is the best. So clearly our little friend here likes to be under the blanket, I guess. That's a little comfortable. Oh, yeah. So you might be surprised how many people have like all lights on all night. And well, as I mentioned earlier, you need the darkness to help you fall asleep, right? Well, melatonin will come out of the pineal cyst only if there's darkness. While if you have all the lights on, your brain doesn't get the signal it's evening. So again, our sleep routine means turn off most lights and just have like one light on, maybe like the strength of a candle or like a low light so that you of course can see, but turn off as many bright lights as you can. And the bright light interferes with melatonin, and if the darker it gets, the easier you have time to fall asleep. You should exercise. I know I have so many patients who are sedentary, and there's good reasons, you're not 18 anymore, and what can you do? But it is good to be active. And so it doesn't mean that you run a marathon every day or do like go to the gym every day, but taking a walk in the afternoon is good. Taking a walk before evening for dinner is good. Doing something physical that you're tired. If you're not really using your body and making yourself tired, well, that doesn't help your sleep routine either. So the rule of thumb is it shouldn't be too close to bedtime because then otherwise you have these endorphins that really kick in and you're just hyper alert. But doing some exercise every day, just even if it's a walk up and down the hallway a couple of times is enough to really get your body going. And making exercise or physical activity a priority is not only good for your sleep and aging process, but it's also good for your heart and other physical organs. Yeah. So this eating a large meal close to bedtime, I see that frequently when people work shift. So people come home late and then need to eat something, and then well, they come home from work at 10 p.m. and then they eat like a large meal, go to bed, and then cannot fall asleep. Well, that's kind of a tough one. You got to eat something, but you also have your routine, and you need to make sure that there is a few hours in between the large meal and bedtime. It is okay to have a small snack before you go to bed, like a cracker or a piece of cheese if you are hungry, but I would avoid large meals directly before you go to bed. Um, that's kind of a no-brainer for most, but then not for everyone. So caffeine is an adenosine antagonist, so it goes to the brain and alerts you. The half-life of caffeine is not that long; it's just a few hours, but people can be fairly sensitive. So drinking a coffee at noon could be already enough to interfere with your nighttime sleep, and you might be also be careful that caffeine or similar caffeinated products can be found in other things, like, of course, sodas and chocolate. And everybody has to figure out themselves what is good or not so good. There's nothing wrong to drinking a cup of coffee in the morning or once in a while, but just make sure it does not interfere with your sleep routine. Um, Alcohol is the most common sleep medication used in the world. So people cannot fall asleep easily, and then they just have a shot of hard liquor and off you go. And that is not healthy for so many reasons, not only for your liver and addiction problems, but alcohol puts you into stage 2 sleep, into light sleep. And when you remember that slide I showed you with deep sleep and light sleep, really it just puts you into light sleep and you get not into the deep sleep that you need to clear out all these protein toxins from your brain. So you fall asleep somewhat, you're sleeping, but the sleep is not recharging your batteries. That's a similar sleep that you would also get from taking a Benadryl. Um, Other um, thoughts when you are going to bed, especially as a senior. Make sure that you don't have any area rugs so you don't trip over it when you're on your way to the bathroom. National Institute of Health actually put down don't smoke in bed. That's an interesting, maybe an outdated recommendation, but let's not do that. Have a glass of water so you don't have to go to the kitchen. Make sure you have a light in the room or a night light that you can turn on so you can see what you're doing in the middle of the night. And maybe you want to have a phone also close by if you need help. All of those things that you might not have in place might be a reason that at night you get confused and need something, and then falls happen. Um, and in specifically like that, especially when you have Alzheimer's and sleep precautions, you want to make sure that you have like something where you can hold on to the bathroom. I have people that sleepwalk, or seniors, and have like a small gate at stairs so you don't fall down the stairs. Sounds silly, but it actually helps because the brain, even if you sleepwalk, can tell there's an obstacle, and then you just don't continue to walk that way. There are some things that a loved one can, of course, do for their partner when you suffer from cognitive disorders. There are certain food that are known to not be helpful in sleep, and those are, of course, all the things that you got to be careful anyway with. Like I mentioned earlier, coffee and alcohol, you have to do that in moderation and figure out how it affects you, especially if you have a cognitive disorder. Alcohol can really affect the vulnerable brain, and that you get more affected by it than others. Fast food, high fat food, high sugar food, food with low fiber. All of those things are difficult to digest, and are probably not helping you to sleep easily at night. So things to think about that. And well, and you could ask, of course, well, what's a balanced diet in general that I can do? So you have to have mostly protein, fat, and a balanced amount of carbohydrates. And you want to probably avoid processed grains. Fruits and vegetables help, and especially you have a very good regular sleep cycle, and also that would affect also when you eat, it's very important. And then acid reflux, where you have at night regurgitations, can also interfere with your sleep, and people start coughing at night or have pain or discomfort in their chest. That can be acid reflux, and treating acid reflux also limits the nighttime awakenings as if needed. I think that's all the slides I have. Well, thank you